Zach, it's very important that we state things as they are. I have never bought any house from Limabank. Not a single house. Never before. That's point number one. So Edith Nawakwi, with due respect, lied to the people of Zambia through your radio station. She told a lie. And that's a fact. I never, through Brantonton or any other, benefited from the Limabank Act myself. Here is the truth. I bought that house in the 90s through a public tender.
But did that house belong to Lima? Did it belong to Limabank?
No, I'm just telling that. The house never belonged to Limabank at all. That's what I said. Never, ever. So she lied. I'm sure she'll be very embarrassed about it. The house was advertised through the newspaper together with many other properties through a real estate agent called T.P. Chiwe and Associates of Ndola. The advert was run in the public media. I responded, I bid, I was the highest bidder. Zach. At that point I bid, I think it was 61 million kwacha in the early 90s. And I was awarded the tender. I engaged a lawyer that time, Michael Msonda, who is Deputy Supreme Court Chief Justice today. Michael Msonda is alive. State Counsel Michael Msonda is alive. He's there. He was my lawyer. Then the house went through the normal transaction, contract of sale. It went through conveyancing, and I became the owner of the house. Nothing to do with Limabank. The house was sold as part of a real estate agent's portfolio. Later on, we realized the house belonged to National Tobacco Company. I had no dealings with National Tobacco Company. I had no dealings with it at all. Initially, the house was owned by TBZ, Tobacco Board of Zambia. Nothing to do, I never even dealt with Tobacco Board of Zambia or National Tobacco Company because it was a real estate agency that was charged with the responsibility to sell the house. Why they were given that house to sell, I understand the company owed money, the banks repossessed, then gave the assets to T.P. Chiwe and Associates of Ndola, who I met for the first time through this transaction, and I bought a house on open tender. No amount of fabrication, that's no amount of hate speech, which I listened to a lot of it, will change the facts. The good thing about facts, they stare you in the face. You try and lie, the facts will remind you that, Madam Nawakwi, you are lying. You are misleading the people of Zambia. Never, ever bought a Limabank house myself. Never.
All right. Now, she also accused you of being a beneficiary, and you benefited heavily from the privatization of mines. You're among the people she called out to explain what exactly transpired. What was your role, maybe, we should ask, in the privatization of mines?
I have explained this again, and I will always do that. That I've never sold a mine. Never, ever sold a mine that belonged to government. Never. And the facts are there. Sometimes we should really be kind to people who are not aware of what happened. The privatization, that was a government program, a legal government program. They even acted a law, the Privatization Act, I think of 1992, in which cabinet, Madam Nawakwi was a cabinet minister, was a member of that cabinet or that government. I wasn't, as I've always said. It was an MMD privatization program. I think when I listened to her this morning, she tried to explain the state of the economy then. I listened to that. But I think what she fell short is to say that the program was basically an MMD government program, and they legislated about it and created the Zambia Privatization Agency. in which they called a lot of people to do work, including Mr. Edgar Lungu, was part of the process, invited by the MMD government, to which Madam Nawakwi was a member. I was in the private sector. I've always been in the private sector. I listened to abuse that have never been anything. That doesn't bother me. The records are there. But I stick with the facts. So, she talked about Ramcos. I never sold Ramcos. Ramcos was sold as a mine owned by government through a process that I never participated.
So you've never been involved in privatization as far as you're concerned?
No, hear me out. We're talking about the mine, right? We're talking about the mine. This is where we create confusion, maybe to the listeners who are unaware, who are unsuspecting. And because I heard one or two callers praising her, she told a lie. We shouldn't glorify lying and make lying a new normal. I disagree that in this country, we must make normal life new normal. We must make corruption new normal. We can't be. That's why we've damaged the economy. Right? I mean, it's not correct to mislead the people of Zambia. So the point that I'm making is that I never privatized Ramcos myself. Ramcos was privatized before. Much earlier, I was not involved. The facts are there. ZPA records are there. Right? So let's settle that. I've also challenged the people that if you believe I saw the mine, since she was minister, and I listened to her, the venom was so strong, I invite her to draw out a police call-out on behalf of herself and the MMD government and the PF government, because clearly she's aligned to the PF government. She loves them. I don't support PF. They've damaged this country's economy. They've killed the country. Corruption is there. Evident. Fire tenders, jets, ambulances, fuel, fertilizer. That's why the economy has collapsed. So, since she loves the PF, can she draw out a police, engineer the police, Kampion, to give me a police call-out to someone to start a process to arrest me or indeed to take me to court that HH saw the mine? I'll be very, very interested to follow this process, maybe to settle the matter once and for all.
What about the issue of...
What I did was, Zach, to be invited to value, to provide a market value, amongst other things, for certain businesses, not a mine. And when we did that, we, as lawyers, were asked to draw sell and purchase agreements. Ours would have been to do evaluation, other business valuation. Ours would have been to assess the state of the financial position of the company. We would give the financial position of the company and give it in terms of the profit and loss position. Some would like to call it income statement. In terms of the balance sheet position, what are the assets? What are the liabilities? What are the contingent liabilities? All of that we did, gave to the owners. The owners then was the people of Zambia, through the government of the MMD, through the Minister of Finance. That was our job, and there were thousands of us doing that. And today, the venom always goes to Hakainde and never say anything about Mr. Lungu, who did his legal work or other work in the privatization program, and numerous other people, and the list is there. So the venom goes to Hakainde because Hakainde is seeking the president of Zambia. Hakainde should not be allowed to rule this country, to save the people of Zambia. He should never be allowed. Hence the venom going to Hakainde.
All right, now, she also raised the issue of Intercontinental Hotel in Livingston.
Absolutely.
Yes, where you said that you were the advisor. You agreed to sell it for, is it $6 million? But then after that, you were part of, how you became part of it, nobody knows. Isn't that conflict of interest?
You know that. There's no issue about that at all. Absolutely not. You do work for a client, you give the client the work. The client can't come up after slumbering for 20 years plus and come up and say, oh, no, HH, you did this. Why didn't they prosecute HH? But they can still do it now. Why don't they start the process now? It's the easiest way of me answering the question, Zach, is to say, nga mwale shikula, mwali la, mulali kukona, mwayamba.
So you take advantage of them sleeping or what?
No,
is that what you're saying?
This is the point. No.
Come on, let's get facts here.
Not at all. You see, if you
So they were sleeping, you decided to take advantage.
It was my way of expressing, expressing a persistent and consistent allegations which are untrue. Like what I've just told you on the house. This matter arose sometime, a headline of a newspaper called the Post that time. Post newspaper. Ran that headline, right? And I responded. I went to the Post, gave them the facts, gave them the transactions, the tender document, everything, and my bidding. And if people cannot take that for an answer, which is a factual answer, it's a legal answer, what more do they want? Of course, then I'll use expressions that is Bale Shikula, because maybe that's the language they understand, because they don't want to listen to the facts. Umulandu Taubola, Zach Badala, Mulandu Tauboli, even today, if they believe that there's a crime committed, they can still go out and throw a case against me. And
they wonder how you became part of the whole process when you're the one who was in the forefront of selling it.
No. Zach, this is what I've been saying. That the ownership at that time belonged to the government, and the party in office was MMD. They are the ones who made those decisions, not me. Today, Zach, I ask you to give me accounts. I ask you to give me accounts for my business. Say, Zach, can you prepare the accounts? Can you prepare the financial position for me, for my company called Company A? You give me that. Then later on, I go ahead and sell the company. And I fail to negotiate a price, a good price. 20 years later, I turned around and said, Zach, the account you gave me, I went and sold the company, but I didn't make enough money. So you committed a crime. Zach, you should laugh at me. Really, you should laugh at me. And ask me.
But you were Zambian, so they thought you should do everything in the interest of the country. The country comes first because you love your country. So when they entrust a Zambian to do something, they expect Zambians to do the right thing.
I love this country, Zach. This is what I'm saying to you. As I love you, right? As I love every other Zambian. That's why I'm taking public office. And it doesn't really, injure me when ignorance exhibits this ugly head every now and then. What it is really an assault on an individual wanting to provide leadership, a better leadership, to deal with the corruption. Then a band of people gang up to say, now, we can't say this guy is a thief. This guy is not a criminal. What do we say? Let's accuse him of something. And the facts are there. Let the Zambians judge for themselves. Let's return to the example of the house. That you then can't continue saying, for me to continue saying, Zach, you are a problem. How are you a problem? I gave you the financial position of your company. Whether you sold your company and then you failed to sell it properly, because you didn't come back to me to say, can you help me further? I didn't help you further. Right? Then 20 years later, I come back to you and start harassing you that. Then you are sleeping on duty. And you must not waste people's time. I must not waste people's time. You should tell me, Wale Shipula, Unagona, Wagona Evo. Stop troubling people. Let the country get the service it needs, the leadership it needs, the visionary leadership it needs. I mean, Madam Nawakwi says, I should have been president a long time ago. She has been in politics since late 80s. I have never challenge her why she's not president, because she's been wanting to be president. It's not my job. We must work to save the people of Zambia. It's not my job to say, Madam Nawakwi, why are you not president since 1989? She wants to paint the picture that I should have been president a long time ago. And she starts saying things that don't exist. That women were eating bans. I mean, sometimes even listeners can tell that this one is lying on that matter. How would I sit in a room that I'm eating something and the woman is eating buns outside? I never even campaigned with her. In the 2006 UDA arrangement, she refused to campaign with me. You see how lies work now. She refused to campaign with me.
If I remember, was
she
also accused.
She was campaigning for PF. In 2006, you are in an alliance through UDA. You don't campaign with your colleagues in the alliance with you. You are campaigning with another political party.
What about the issue of the farm where she said there's a man who's who I don't know, he's got he's not okay now because I don't know what transpired over the farm. I don't know how you ended up
of a farm in Manuel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's the issue there?
Sometimes the craziness has no limits, right? And venom. When you are angry, Isaac, when you are angry, when you detest and hate somebody like Nawakwi hates AJ, she will even trip. She will tell lies. I own a farm on a title deed in Namala, farm 191A. That farm, Zach, has been in existence. It was created.
How long have you owned it? How long have you owned it?
Listen to me. It was created since 1909. The first owner of that farm was the British South Africa Company. 1909. Not even my mother was born. Not even my grandfather was born. 1909, that farm was created, owned by the British South Africa Company, BSA Company. Then a guy called Dell, who was a district commissioner in those colonial days, bought that farm from the British South Africa Company. And I bought that farm from the Dell family, myself. I never took any land. By the way, I'm a headman in Namala there. She's talking of an area that she's totally ignorant of. If I was a rascal, as she puts it, she gathers information from newspapers such as those that are helpful Daily Nation. Then she takes it as a fact. You'll be misled, madam. If I choose to take you to court, you'll be alone. But I don't want to waste my time. We have to wait for the people of Zambia. So that farm, I've owned it, I bought it. It has been in existence over 115 years old. Who is alive who is 115 years old? So, was I there in 1909? I wasn't. So why should I be blamed? Nawakwi has bought farms from different places. I have never asked her why she bought the farm. It's her choice. It's my decision. I'm a rancher. I produce beef. I feed people. I must be given respect for feeding people. But I don't demand it. I have not committed any crime. Everything is HH. The rains are late, it's HH. There's load shedding, it's HH. You lie to the people of Zambia that after the rains, the load shedding will be over. The rains were good. Less than $1,000,000. Still load shedding. They blame HH. You tell people you're going to get 5 quarter diesel from Saudi Arabia. You don't have 5 quarter diesel, you blame HH. You are doing a transaction on Lower Zambezi National Park. And you wake up and say, no, HH sold the Lower Zambezi National Park. Well,